I consider signing up for, I think she meant a body donation upon death. Our mind will attach to the dead body all immediately. Okay, so the question is, this person is asking, she's considering signing up for a body donation upon death. So her question is, would our mind be attached to the dead body immediately after death? Because this person is saying that she may not have a strong mind, and that the mind may still be with the body when the body is been cut. So it's her experience is that it might be different from an organ donation. And so what would Longpa's advice be about a body donation, a whole body donation as against organ donation?
Well, when it comes to dana and donations, the Buddha encouraged us to do things that make us feel happy and inspired. So there's no one answer. It has to be this way, that way. But the important thing is to remember, at the moment of death, when we die, mind and body separate. And that's the end of it. You can never go back. Mind can never go back, return to the body. It moves on. Where do you want it to move on to? Well, ideally, nibbana. So there's no more rebirth. It just gives up all attachment to the five khandhas, and there's no more fuel left for more birth, no more wanting, craving, desiring, attachment. That's our goal. But if we haven't reached that point yet, you at least want your mind to be going to a good destination where it can carry on practicing, hearing the Dhamma, practicing, maintain its faith, maintain the practice in the next destination. So what determines that will be karma, what you find important in your mind through your life, good and bad, where your attachments are. This will all be coming up, and you've got mental choices, as it were, even though it might sound like, oh, I have no choice at the moment of death where I'm reborn. But really the choice is now through your life. What choices you're making will determine what kind of causes and conditions are arising at death and where your mind goes. And you want good ones, don't you? You want to be in a wholesome state when you die, either focusing on your meditation object, or focusing on nibbana, focusing on letting go, or focusing on at least the practice of generosity that you've done, the precepts you've kept that you remember. Anything, any part of your practice that is strong, well developed, that will become your refuge at the point of death. So you're practicing now for that time. So if you've got the inspiration to offer your body to science, you make that strong determination, I'm going to give up this body for scientific research, whatever they do with it, may it be of benefit for science, for the community in one way or another. The idea is then you make that mental aspiration and you let go. So you're still alive, it hasn't happened yet, but you've let go mentally, you've let go, you're saying, I'm relinquishing this body now. I'm setting it in motion that when I die, this is going to become a body given to science. I don't have to worry about it anymore. End of story. You've given it away, and maybe that will help you to give up some of your attachment to the body. You may be still healthy and happy and have many years to go in your life, but you know in the back of your mind, this body is not mine. When I die, they can do whatever is useful with it. That might be a very wholesome kind of karma you've made, and help guide you through your life to the point at the end of life where you just say, that's it, give up you've signed the form, you've given the explanation, and you give up your attachment to the body physically, mentally, on every level. That would be a good outcome. Organ donation can be the same. You may realize, well, they're not going to use all of this body, this hopeless body here. Nobody wants most of it, maybe. But maybe there's one bit that's really useful. Maybe you've got a good heart, a good liver, a good kidney, lungs, an eye, something that can be useful. So you make your will and say, well, I offer my body for organ donation if that's possible. And there's so many uncontrollable causes and conditions here. You don't really know yet what will happen after you die. So some people offer their body to science, but it never gets used because for some reason or other it's just not suitable. The whole point is, though, in the intention has been made, the offer has been made, and the fact that in the end they couldn't use it, you just have to accept that. Or an organ may be harvested from a newly deceased person with the intention of helping to save a life, good, but maybe in the end it can't work, maybe the blood doesn't match or something, it doesn't work, or maybe it does work. You know, the whole point of these aspirations to donate body to science, organ donation, is you're just making the intention, you're saying, I understand when I die I don't need the body anymore, why not help someone else's life in one way or another through research or donation, and you just do it and then you let go. So some monks will donate their body to science. Some monks, I know probably the most common one is you just let it be cremated. You let the body die when it's time to die, you let go and it gets cremated. And in a way that's also a teaching, because everyone has a chance to see the monk cremated. Maybe it was a beloved teacher, respected teacher, but now you're seeing, or even Ajahn Chah was cremated, or any other person, or the Buddha himself. He was cremated. So there are choices with what will happen after we die, and you can make plans, write it down, tell everyone. The whole point is, once you're dead, that's it, isn't it? Mind and body separate, so you really don't need to think or worry too much about what happens after you die. More importantly is how you live now in preparation for your death. That's much more important.
Everyone's quite shy. They're typing in their questions and I'm reading them out. But you feel free to please ask your question in person if you like to. So let me go to question number 2. This is from Shervin. The question is, Longpo, in the Magga Sutta, the Lord Buddha described that sensual pleasures at present are painful to the touch, very hot and scorching. Could Longpo please explain this?
I didn't get all of that. Can you just speak a little slower and clearer? Sensual pleasures are something from the sutta?
Sensual pleasures are at present are painful to the touch, very hot and scorching.
Yeah. You want explanation of that?
Yes, so this person wants an explanation on this particular phrase.
Okay. Well, one very common one that I get people to look at is, say you go to the shopping mall all afternoon and you're seeing sights, smelling smells, tasting, you might buy food, you're hearing sounds, music and people. All your senses are overstimulated for a number of hours, and you go home, and often if you sit down and pause and become mindful when you get home, you feel awful because of all that stimulation. It's painful, isn't it? It can be painful over and over again to be stimulated. Even with pleasurable stimulation, it turns into pain. The kind of pain obviously varies, but for the mind of somebody who's maybe not even yet enlightened, but they have samadhi, the painful nature or harmful nature or painful nature of sense contact is highlighted very clearly, because the refined happiness of samadhi, where you've dropped the hindrances, you let go of your attachment to your body, you're just with the mind that is peaceful, pure, happy, that gives you the perspective that sense contact is coarse, it's not pleasant, it's even pleasurable sense contact is not pleasant. It's bound up with dukkha, it's temporary. That in itself is a cause of pain, because it doesn't last. It's based on attachment to the body, your attachment to your sense organs. They're painful. Your eyes give you pain, your skin, sense of touch gives you pain. So bound up with this sense pleasure that we keep seeking and getting lost in, you get painful feelings, The sense organs themselves are dukkha and a source of dukkha. It's temporary. You get used to it, and then you need more to get the same level of stimulation. So it's addictive. It's a form of addiction. You know, we tend to only talk about addiction when it's extreme, like gambling, alcohol, drugs, pornography, whatever. That's the more extreme kind of addiction, but really we're addicted to our senses anyway. Even if we live a fairly ordinary, mundane, sheltered life, your senses are being stimulated all the time, and we get addicted to that, but we don't see until we start to practice meditation maybe. As your mindfulness improves, and you maybe attain more states of calm, serenity of mind, it exposes the painful nature of sense contact. You're seeing sense contact is less good than the happiness of samadhi. The happiness of samadhi is less good than the freedom of suffering that comes from wisdom. So the highest happiness is the wisdom that leads to liberation, abandoning defilements, nibbana. But on the way to it, the best way to understand nibbana is attain samadhi first. Then you get a clue or a look into the nature of nibbana, or the nearest you can get to it. And this is the value of samadhi, is it helps you to let go of sense desire, sense contact, and the obsession with the senses. They don't matter anymore. And they're also seen as painful. So if you're in a deep state of samadhi, peaceful, even if only for a short period of time, you come back. Quite often you have sensed this sort of weariness with picking up the senses again. Seeing things, hearing things, tasting. Like, sometimes I've had periods in my practice when the mind is so peaceful, where I've been free of other activities, so I can just dedicate myself to the practice of mindfulness, samadhi. The mind becomes so blissful, so detached to the body, you don't want to eat. You just see the pain of eating, even though it might be delicious food in front of you, you just don't want to eat it. You can see the pain, the coarseness of it, and you have so much internal joy, happiness, bliss. The happiness of nice food fades in comparison. And all the other kinds of sensual happiness, sexual happiness, pleasure of food, stimulation of things like music, massage, whatever it is you can think of, beautiful art, beautiful thing, whatever it is you are into in life that brings you a buzz, makes you high, whatever it is, when you practice and develop some samadhi, it's put into perspective, and you see it not only as temporary but also as painful, as dukkha, because it's a basis for attachment, and you don't want more pain, more suffering, so you don't want to attach to the senses and the objects of the senses anymore. But the detaching process takes time. That's the practice of vipassana, investigating it, looking and learning, seeing how this body is actually a basis for suffering. The more we attach to it and the more we liberate from it, the happier we'll be. That takes time. It's a learning process. Ajahn Chah used to just say, if you want to understand this point, just eat your favorite food every day. That food you really love, you always like, you're never bored with, you can always find it exciting, stimulating. Okay, just test out to see how long that will last, that truth will last. Eat it for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner, any snacks. Your favorite food, whatever it is, say it's noodles. Noodles for lunch, noodles for dinner, noodles for midnight snack, noodles for breakfast, noodles here, noodles there. How long before you can't stand the sight of noodles and you think, I don't want to see it. It becomes painful, doesn't it? Even the bliss of the senses fades. It's temporary and it turns into pain. And that's something we have to look at, study, learn from. And it becomes apparent. The more mindfulness we develop, the more insight we develop, it becomes more apparent. Then you don't doubt it anymore. If you're still doubting it, it's because you haven't really investigated it.
Thank you, Longpo Sadhu. I'd like to now invite a friend from Sri Lanka, Upu. Upu, could you please unmute yourself? Yes.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Lumpo, I have. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I
Yeah. Lumpo, my question is: one of my friend's wife recently diagnosed lymphocyte cancer, and she is at the 4th stage of her cancer now. And mind is like more suffering. She has a little kid, only 7 years old. And I have given her meditation instructions and Dhamma talk. I took her to a monastery and I gave Dhamma talk, and she was blessed with that. She was amazed. And but after hearing some advices from various media and various people have told her so many things, ultimately she's anyway suffering. How can I support her to overcome that situation, and what kind of things that she can do, she can practice to overcome her suffering from the illness? And uh, is it is there any way that she can cure the cancer with her mind by deleting or erasing her past karma? Thank you, Ajahn. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Well, I sympathize with the question. It's a very common kind of question. I would advise caution in the approach because we're all looking for a quick fix. We want to delete our bad karma from the past. We all want this, but you have to accept we don't know how much and what kind of bad karma we've made in the past. So maybe don't make too much of it. Don't spend too much time speculating on something you can never really know. Focus more on the present and what will be the conditions conducive for the bringing up happiness and freeing the mind from the obsession with the body and the illness and the pain and all that. What will help us do that best? So listening to Dhamma is good, but maybe you've had an idea that sometimes we get too much Dhamma because there's too much Dhamma out there, too many things on YouTube and places. So sure, keep listening to the Dhamma. I would recommend that, but be selective and be careful not to get overload from all the media and all the places. That's one thing to be aware of. And then balance that listening to Dhamma with practice. So I'd recommend any effort devoted towards the bringing up of mindfulness as a meditation practice through sitting, walking meditation will be very, very helpful. Get some direct experience of the mind, bringing up this ability to observe our own body and mind in the present moment and start learning and looking at cause and effect in the present. So you've heard the Dhamma, fine, that's a good beginning, but now you have to look and learn from your own experience. And if you have an illness, first of all, I would just simply sit there and observe, how is this illness affecting me right now? Because sometimes people are ill in name, and there's the symptoms, maybe, they're there, or the tests have been done, but maybe they actually don't feel a lot of change in themselves sometimes. I'm not saying every time, but sometimes. So most of the suffering is the thought of it, isn't it? I'm not actually much in pain, but there's the thought, the fear, the anxiety, that we can start to assess and become more observant of how we are falling into negative trains of thought because we're attaching to the idea of the illness, what we think about it, who we are. We identify with illness as some kind of personal failure. I'm bad, like you say, or my old bad karma. We tend to go in a very negative way when we're thinking without mindfulness and wisdom. So try to bring up more mindfulness and be more aware of what trains of thought are coming up associated with the illness and how we're relating to it. So looking at our own attitude and our own perspectives on the illness and maybe tweaking them or changing them once we've established more mindfulness through practicing some meditation. It can be loving kindness meditation, breathing meditation, recollecting the Buddha, whatever helps that person to bring up more strength of mindfulness, more effort, do it, but then contemplate. And you might see that quite quickly you can let go of some of the anxiety, the reactions to painful feelings. If there is pain in the body, start to learn about it. Where is the pain? How bad is it? How often is it coming up into our experience? Is it all the time, or is it just certain parts of the day? Sometimes it's strong, sometimes it disappears. There's a lot we can learn about pain, say, that will help us to make pain just an object of the mind rather than identifying with it and just reacting to it with fear or aversion. And any mindfulness technique will help you prepare the mind to do that, to become observant and learn to see pain. A painful feeling is just a painful feeling. It's not a person, it's not a being, it's just a feeling. And this is the heart of the Buddhist practice, but it's something we can all do, even if only in small bursts. And I know when you're ill, you've got cancer, whatever, you're going to be tired. There's many challenges, of course, but it can be done because I've seen many other people do this. Work with it. There's always a chance cancer can go into recession, disappear, or maybe not. We just don't know. So Ajahn Chah used to say, keep your mind in the middle. This is a wisdom practice. Keeping your mind in the middle. If I get better, good. If I don't, good. Never mind. I'll accept whatever life brings me. Whatever the causes and conditions are, I'll accept them. Because that very acceptance relaxes your mind. You become more at ease within yourself, and that may actually boost your immune system and boost the recovery process. The very desire to get better and not have this illness may actually make it worse. Because if you keep desiring, I've got to get better, I've got to get well, how can I do it? It brings out a lot of physical and mental tension, adds to your suffering, makes you feel worse, and every time you get some more news that the cancer has spread or whatever, you feel worse, more negative. It's a downward spiral, generally. Whereas if you practice more mindfulness in this, keeping the mind in the middle towards the conditions of body and mind, you actually feel liberated. It is what it is, you're aware of it, you know it, and you're not letting your mind go into the cycles of negativity. You're just watching and accepting. And then from that point, you use your mind to focus on the good things. And that's something we often overlook. You think, I'm ill, my life is going down the drain, everything is bad, no future. It's very easy to get caught into a dark picture of what you're experiencing. But then, what good can I still do? I can still talk. I can listen to Dhamma. I can talk to people and tell them how much I love them. I can tell people, give them advice. Young ones, I can give them advice. If you have children or younger people friends, you can encourage them to do more good in their life. You may still be physically active enough that you can visit temples and do dana offerings. You can maybe volunteer work. You can do. People can use their mind in a lot of good ways, even when they're ill, if only they give themselves the chance. So half of the problem is our own attitude to ourselves and not picking up on our negative views, negative thoughts, identifying too much with the illness as a kind of a personal problem, personal failure. Calming the mind with mindfulness, bringing it to that place of neutrality in the middle, recognizing the symptoms of the illness, recognizing the problem, of course, but then not sticking in it, getting stuck in it, attaching to it. Look for the good in life. And often suffering presses us to do more good. Makes us meditate more, makes us listen to the Dhamma more, makes the Dhamma that we've heard more meaningful, because now we can see there is some suffering in life. I have my illness, now I really want to practice the Dhamma. So even though it's painful and not what we want, it can actually stimulate very good things. And I know people who've got really angry with everyone because they got cancer and no one can cure it, and blame the Buddha, blame the teacher, blame the family, blame the doctor, blame everyone, until they blamed out. It's like, but that's when I come in. I come in and they're like, There's no one else I can blame. I said, well, then you might as well stop blaming everyone. Why not? Time to forgive everyone, let go, feel good about life, and thank everybody and be kind to everyone. And I've seen people do that and revolutionize their thinking from completely depressed, negative, end of the world stuff to peaceful, accepting, kind, compassionate. And sometimes cancer patients can become more compassionate than the healthy visitors who visit them, who are still stuck in all the problems of their life. And it's possible. You can become a teacher or a friend to others through your illness. So there's a lot of possibilities still there. Never give up. The Dhamma is always there to be practiced, learned, understood. Good qualities in our heart are always there to come out and be developed and shared. It's never the end of the story. And if it happens that you're dying of cancer, it's not what we want. But if you're dying of cancer and you just die with a mind of compassion for everyone, thank everyone, wish you all well, what a great way to die. So we have to accept things that do come up that we didn't want it to happen. But when you accept and you start releasing your mind to do more wholesome things, think more wholesome thoughts, maybe some good can come out of the whole thing.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Paul, do you feel physically up to it for a few more questions?
Why not?
Okay, great. Thank you. Could I now please ask Ong Chai Hin? Ong Chai Hin, could you unmute yourself? And if you can't, yes. Can you unmute yourself? Yes, great. Go ahead.
Hello, Ajahn. I would like to relate my experience before I ask your comment and questions. So my experience that I have this, if you ask me like the food that I liked, I have a memory that when I was child, I have a fried rice with fried eggs on it. And if I poke the egg yolk, the yellow egg yolk flow out. So in my memory, this is my best food. And during these recent years, I try to, I ordered a fried rice with the same style, but I did not get back the feeling. So this is the first experience. And second experience is I had a previous relationship that was many years back, but my memory still record the happiness moments in the past. And I already married, so it's kind of give me a lot of disturbance. Once in a while, for recent years, I also had memory, because I always had the good memory, and I also had bad memory. That means our relationship had problems. So, but usually the good memory came up, seldom the bad memory. So my question is to Ajahn, could you share your own self experiences and your comment toward this scenario? Thank you.
Well, good question, and I think very, pertinent to the point for many people. Life is a construction of memories partly, isn't it? We spend so much time remembering things, and that informs the way we look at the world currently based on past experience, how we remember things as good, as bad. And you notice in a relationship, when you're happy with your partner, you remember good things about them and how they've helped you and what you like about them. And then when you're in a relationship and you're getting angry and annoyed with them for some reason, then you remember all their faults and all the bad stuff comes up. The important thing is to have enough mindfulness to know this is just memory. Memory is a function of mind. We have a mind, consciousness, and we have memory, we have feelings, we have thought formations or intentional thoughts, which is where we make our karma. And then we have the body. This is what we call the 5 khandhas. So having enough mindfulness at any moment to know this is a memory, whether it's a good memory or a bad memory, a pleasant one or an unpleasant one, a true one or a false one, and you have to be aware some of our memories are false and created out of our own imagination or whatever. But to know a memory is a memory, and have that mindfulness from moment to moment through your life, and that makes you cautious not to jump onto it and believe it too much or let it condition your mind too much, because it's just a memory. But there's a hope in there, because a memory is a memory, so a memory can be let go of. It's temporary, impermanent, it's not self. And maybe you're plagued by lots of bad memories sometimes, and they come out and you don't want them, but they plague you. You feel like a victim of some person, but they're actually just memories. But if you can establish mindfulness and know this is just a memory, that's what helps you to acknowledge it, but then to let it go, especially the bad memories and the bad stuff. And it's not you're suppressing, not you're denying, you're just saying it's just a memory, it can be let go of, so I will let go of it. Which gives your mind space to focus on the present moment and the good in yourself, in others. So in the case of a relationship, of course, if you're only remembering the bad stuff and keep focusing on that, attaching to that, well, your relationship becomes poisoned. What you have to do is catch that habit, if that's your habit, and teach yourself, let it go, let it be, forgive the past, forgive them, forgive yourself, move on. Try and appreciate the good in the person for what they've done to you, for you, with you. That's not to acknowledge or not to deny. There may be, that person may have hurt you, you may have hurt them, bad things may have happened. It's not to deny that, but to recognize a memory is just a memory. And that's mindfulness in the present moment that does that. And a memory is impermanent, unsatisfactory, not self, not to be clung to as a me, mine, myself, but just to be recognized. It's a part of the mind, it's a function of mind, and then let go of. And that's the way we can get beyond a lot of our past, by recognizing past is just the past, it's just a memory now. You can't go back into the past and fix everything, change your karma, delete your karma. It would be nice if you could, but you can't. But you can acknowledge it, learn from it, accept it, then you let go. But having learned from it, well, you won't make the same mistakes again, hopefully. And the good stuff that happened in the past, you can repeat and do more of. And you learn that way, and a lot of our learning is based on memory, isn't it? What we call sanya. So you develop sanya in certain ways, based on memory, but you use it skillfully. So you can develop, you can do as a little exercise for yourself, like with the fried rice and the egg. Okay, you've had your favorite food and it's been sticking there in the back of your mind all these years. That's my favorite food, I really like it. Whenever I think of it, I'm happy, and if I can get it again, I'll be really happy. Probably everyone has those kind of thoughts in one way or another. But at the same time, it's just a thought, it's just a memory, it's impermanent. You'll never get the perfect food. Maybe by now you realize that. So even though you know why you like that food, and it's a harmless kind of attachment, you might say, and we all got to eat, but at the same time, it's teaching us many things, isn't it? It's like, even the best food in the world doesn't last. You eat it and then it's gone. Maybe you'll never get it again. Like when I was a kid, I learned to cook enough to look after myself. I had that wish to be able to cook for myself, so since the age of about 7 or 8, just in case I needed to. That was my character, to learn to be independent, to look after myself. So one day I took on this dish called creme brulee, which, if you know anything about food, it's French dessert, which is delicious. I can't even remember how I made it now. I just remember the name, but it's basically brown sugar grilled on top of this blancmange or something underneath, egg and cream and stuff underneath. And I made it once and it came out perfect. And everyone said, wow, that's perfect. So of course I tried to make it again next time, and I could never make it again the same. I never got my perfect creme brulee again. So I spent a lifetime in my lay life thinking, I could never do it. I could never recreate it. Life is so unfair. It's just a memory. And, you know, I'm happy I made it good once and I gave it to my family and they enjoyed it. That's good. So what? That's the end of it. You can't recreate anything again exactly the same. The world doesn't work like that. The cells are different. The time is different. The causes and conditions are different. You never recreate anything exactly the same. Venerable Dhamma was saying, we went to Thailand 2 weeks ago and we've come back different people because all our body has changed and our senses have been stimulated by different things in Thailand. We've seen monks and chanted and been in the jungle there and had different experiences, and that changes you, doesn't it? Each little experience changes you a little bit. That's the whole purpose of the Buddha's wisdom, pointing out everything changes, and because it's changing, it's unsatisfactory, it's not self. When you have insight into that, it liberates you, even from attachment to your favorite food.
Yeah, Ajahn. But the issue is, if I have this memory and I have attachment to it, so with the logic thinking, it is quite not easy to erase that memory and attachment. So if the memory keep inside my mind, then it will affect my it will take effect on me. If I recall the memory, then the memory take over me, then it create my reactions.
Well, what you have to see now is there's actually cause and effect here. It's a causal process, which is the heart of our meditation practice. So it's actually a very good thing to investigate. The memory is just a memory. That in itself is not yet attachment. It's neutral. A memory is just a function of your mind, and you're never going to erase memories completely. You know, people try to drown their memories in alcohol or brainwash themselves or suppress memories. It doesn't work that well. You know, you can try your best, but you don't need to do that. All you need to do is establish mindfulness and know memory is just memory, even a bad one. Mindfulness. When you're mindful, you practice meditation, you become more mindful, that memory, say, of your favorite food comes up. And you know this is a memory linked back to the past experience, the colors, the shape, the taste, the smell, whatever it is that's stimulated in your mind has picked up on that impression, as you say, through desire and attachment in the past. So it's something that you're giving a lot of importance to because you haven't yet seen that attachment leads to suffering. But now you're meditating, you can investigate that and say, why does attachment lead to suffering? Well, because when I think of my favorite food and I haven't got it, I have this feeling of lack, wanting, I need it, I want it. And so your mind's not peaceful. It's moving, it's caught up with that wanting, which hardens into attachment. And then every time I go around, if I see fried rice and eggs, it's like, uh-oh, you already, the hairs stand on end and the saliva comes and you're like Pavlov's dog and it's like, uh-oh, that's my favorite food. And maybe it's the wrong time of day or you're in the wrong situation. You shouldn't be thinking of it, but you do. Attachment is like that. And maybe as long as you can't get it, you're not happy. Or, like another one I often bring up is when I was a kid, I liked custard. Which is lucky because at my school in the 1960s, they gave us custard every day with every meal. We had lunch at school, there's always a main course and then a dessert, and the dessert was always something with custard, fruit with custard or apple pie and custard. So I liked custard and I ate it every day and it was fine. But then one day, my friend played a joke on me and he got salt, the whole salt cellar, and he poured it into the custard while I wasn't looking. I was over here talking to somebody who did this. Then I came back and I weighed it into my fruit and custard, whatever it was, and I went, "Bleh," and vomited it up because it's full of salt. And from that day on, I quit custard. I don't want custard anymore because the memory was so powerful, it became an attachment and a cause of suffering. I hate custard. I'm not someone who likes custard. That became part of me during my childhood. until I was in Thailand, and I've been in Thailand about 15 years, never had custard offered once, because Thais don't eat custard. They eat rice and curries and mangoes and all that stuff. They never eat custard. So that was fine, because I'm somebody who doesn't like custard now, having brought this aversion to custard because of my memory of salty custard that made me sick. So I'm the monk who doesn't like custard. No one knows this, I know this. And then one day some lady very kindly thought, oh, this English monk living with Ajahn and Nun, he never gets English food, I'm going to make a whole tray of English food out of the goodness of her heart. So she brought various kinds of English bread and cheese and stuff that was from England, peas, baked beans, and then apple pie and custard. And she didn't know I'd become the person who hates custard from my attaching to my bad memories from the past. So she gave it to Ajahn Anand, who was kindly sent it down to me. He's not too attached to it because he's not Thai, because he's not English. So there's the English monk. Oh, now I've got all this English food in front of me that I haven't seen for years and years and years. What do I do? But I'm a meditator, so I have to establish mindfulness and restraint and vipassana. And say, oh, okay. And there's custard, and I like this and I like that. Oh, but there's custard. And straight away it's like, perception or memory, custard. I don't like custard. But is that true? I had a really easy, good experience of investigating how one memory had stuck with me for like 30 years or whatever it was. And now it was like, is that true? That memory, that perception I've been holding on, is that really me? Do I really hate custard? So I took some custard and it tasted really good. I said, wow, I've really fooled myself for the last 30 years. I've been anti-custard and now I've eaten it and it tastes quite good. So I just exploded that memory and that kind of attachment in one mouthful of custard. And so I'm now the monk who can eat custard. And that previous memory, I still have it, but it doesn't bother me anymore. If I get custard or not, I'm really not bothered. But you see what I mean? We carry along memories that can just condition us day after day if we don't investigate them, if we're not mindful of them. And that can be a person, where it's really harmful tends to be like people or ourselves. I'm this kind of person, I'm bad, I'm a failure, my life is no good, so become depressed. Or someone is my enemy, I hate them because they once told me something so bad or did something to me so hurtful 18 years ago and now they're my enemy. And you carry a memory around. If you never investigate, you never establish mindfulness, you're like a slave, a victim of that memory. And that's a shame, because that attachment may cause you and others a lot of suffering that could be remedied quite quickly. And this is exactly why meditation, vipassana, mindfulness practice is so liberating. It's taking you beyond these things so they no longer cause you suffering and you become a better person. So, does that make sense? No.
Yeah. Yeah. Could Ajahn give more? You said mindfulness, but I don't really get how to do it. But could you? Because maybe you can give your own example.
Yeah, time is going on, but what I recommend is, one is we'll put this video on YouTube. Listen to it again, because there's maybe explanation you didn't pick up on. Two, all the videos we're doing around this subject in one way or another. So you may find like the mindfulness meditation guides help. Further explanation in some of the other videos may help. So I think we're running out of time now. People probably fed up hearing me talk about custard. So we'll end tonight, but we can always revisit the question in future talks.